In this video, we're going to look at how to answer a question that requires us to explain whether a particular case is a criminal case or a civil case. The scenario we're looking at is as follows. Nikki agrees to sell her car to Sharon for $5,000. However, when Sharon turns up to collect the car from Nikki's place, Nikki tells Sharon that she has already sold the car to Ali for $6,000. Sharon, as the plaintiff, sues Nikki as the defendant for breach of contract in the magistrate's court. The magistrate orders Nikki to pay Sharon $1,200 in damages to compensate Sharon for the breach of contract. It'll be good practice for you to write the answer along with me. You probably have a pretty good idea already that this is a civil case. So we can start off our answer by saying exactly that. This is a civil case. And then we can go on and write the following sentence. There are 3 reasons for this. Now we can always write this sentence because when you're deciding whether a case is a civil case or a criminal case, you always look at 3 criteria. The first of these criteria is the vocabulary that is used. And this simply means you look at the words which are used in the case study and determine whether those words are words that are associated with a criminal case or are words that are associated with a civil case. The second thing that you look at is the cause of action. And cause of action simply means what is the breach of law that is said to have occurred. And the final thing or criteria that you look at is the consequences of the breach. That is, what order or orders could a court make if it finds that the breach of law has actually occurred. So let's start off then by looking at the vocabulary that's used in this case study. You can see here that the case study refers to Sharon as the plaintiff suing Nikki as the defendant. And we know that plaintiff, sue and defendant are all words that are used with civil cases. So we can then continue our answer by writing the first reason is that Sharon, as the plaintiff, sues Nikki as the defendant. Now if I stop there, then all I'd be doing is simply repeating what the case study tells us. It already says that Sharon, as the plaintiff, sues Nikki as the defendant. But the question requires me to explain why I think this is a civil or a criminal case. In other words, why is the fact that we have a plaintiff who's suing a defendant, why does that suggest that this is a civil case? So to explain why this is a civil case, we need to show that we understand the vocabulary that's used in a civil case. Accordingly, we need to write a sentence that describes a civil case using the words that we've identified, that is, using plaintiff, sue, and defendant. So the sentence we could write could be as simple as this. In a civil case, a plaintiff sues a defendant. So you can see that what I've done is to use the vocabulary that we've identified from the case study to describe how that is used in the context of a civil case. Now, you should note that the action is being brought in the magistrate's court, but I haven't referred to the magistrate's court as relevant to whether this is a civil or criminal case. The reason for that is that most courts, including the magistrate's court, hear both criminal and civil cases. So the fact that this case has been brought in the magistrate's court doesn't tell me whether or not this is a civil or criminal case. So I simply ignore the issue about what court this case has been brought in. All right, we can now turn to the second reason, which relates to the cause of action. And we can see here that Sharon is suing Nikki for breach of contract. And again, we can write this as our reason. The second reason is that Sharon is suing Nikki for breach of contract. Now again, if I was to stop there, that tells me no more than what the case study already says, that Sharon, the plaintiff, sues Nikki, the defendant, for breach of contract. So I've got to add another sentence which shows that I understand why the fact that Sharon is suing Nikki for breach of contract suggests that this is a criminal case. And that sentence can be simply as follows. Breach of contract is a civil cause of action. Or you could say that breach of contract is a civil wrong. That leads us to the final reason, and that relates to consequences. That is, what order or orders can the court make if it finds, as in this case, that there has been a breach of the law. And here we can see that the magistrate orders Nikki to pay Sharon $1,200 in damages. So we can write our third reason as follows. We can say the third reason is that the magistrate orders Nikki to pay damages to Sharon. Now again, that tells us no more than what the case study already says, so we've got to demonstrate that we understand that where a case involves damages, that will be a civil case. So we add another sentence which says that damages is a civil remedy. And that brings us to the end of the answer. If you're unsure about any of the vocabulary or causes of action or consequences that are associated with a civil or a criminal case, then please review the slide pack entitled Law in Society, which you'll find in the Compass Resources section. This is the slide pack that we looked at towards the end of last year. Now I'd like you to try to write an answer to a case study which explains whether you think that the case is a civil case or is a criminal case. Use the structure that we've discussed in this video. And here is the case study. Peter is a keen football supporter and his team is the Tigers. On Saturday, Peter goes to a match between the Tigers and the Bulldogs. At half-time, the Bulldogs are 6 goals in front and Herman, who is a Bulldog supporter, yells at Peter that the Tigers are pathetic losers. This upsets Peter, who punches Herman, breaking his nose. The police charge Peter with assault and prosecute him in the magistrate's court. The magistrate finds Peter guilty of assault and fines him $1,000. Remember, when you're analysing this case study, look at the vocabulary that's used, the cause of action and the consequences. If you've got any questions about this, please see me in class.